The Starship Captain's Journey. The alert chimed, a persistent, digital ghost in the quiet of his room. Captain David awoke not to the gentle English dawn, but to a holographic summons from NASA Space Command. The message was stark. His presence was required at Cape Canaveral. Urgently. He dressed in the deep cobalt blue of his command uniform, the fabric of familiar comfort against the sudden chill of the unknown. His gunship, a vessel as sleek and blue as his uniform, cut a silent path through the morning sky. Below, the patchwork of England gave way to the curve of the Earth. David engaged the kinetostream thrusters. The world blurred into a ribbon of light, and the vast, dark expanse of the Atlantic became a momentary crossing. He was a whisper moving faster than sound, a cobalt dart aimed at the heart of the world's space defense. He landed at Cape Canaveral amidst giants. A fleet of silver dreadnoughts, bristling with the T5 technology he had pioneered years ago, towered over his small craft. They were powerful, deadly, and yet obsolete. His own T6 technology remained his secret, a power he felt humanity, in its destructive and deceptive nature, was not yet ready to wield. As he disembarked, he felt the weight of their gazes, a small ship, and a lone captain among a fleet built for war. Captains from the American and British fleets, clad in military green, offered salutes. "Right this way, Captain," a British officer said, his tone grim. "It's a war council." They walked through the sprawling NASA complex, past labs where engineers frantically worked on new weapons and experimental ships, the air thick with the smell of ozone and desperation. The war room was a circle of tense faces from Russia, China, Korea, and Germany. President Thorne sat at the head of the table. A holographic map of the solar system glowed in the center of the room. "The threat," Thorne began, his voice grave, "is planet Nibiru. It has returned from the void and is on a direct collision course with Earth." David interrupted. "You mean the myth is real?" Thorne's eyes were cold. "Unfortunately, yes." "The Anunnaki may be long gone," the president continued, "but something else is there now. We sent a fleet of dreadnoughts to investigate. We received one fragmented transmission about a hostile contact, and then silence. A chilling image appeared on the map. A black, spiky, malevolent-looking ship. David stood. "I'll go. You prepare the fleets for battle, just in case." David didn't return to his gunship. Instead, he took a private transport to a hidden orbital dock where his true vessel, the Vigilance, awaited. It was a dreadnought of impossible scale, forged in secret, its cobalt blue hull absorbing the light of the stars. This was the vessel that housed his T6 technology. He strode onto the command bridge, the universe sprawling across the main view screen. "Activate the kinetostream and Arcadia drives," he commanded. "Set a course for the Kuiper Belt." The Vigilance didn't just fly. It tore a hole in the fabric of space. The solar system became a memory in its wake as it plunged into the darkness beyond Pluto. On the bridge, David monitored the long-range sensors, his instincts screaming that he was heading into a trap. He was alone out here, a single point of light in an infinite, hostile darkness. Alarms blared, a violent symphony of red alerts. It appeared from nowhere, a vessel of pure nightmare, black and covered in crystalline spikes that seemed to drink the light. Before the Vigilance could react, the enemy ship fired. It wasn't a missile or a laser, but a beam of pure darkness, a pulse of electrical energy that hit his advanced T6 basalt shields and passed straight through them. The impact was silent but absolute. The entire dreadnought convulsed as the dark energy surged through every system. Lights died, engines fell silent, and the comforting hum of the life support system vanished. The enemy ship warped away, leaving the Vigilance powerless and adrift. David scrambled from his chair, grabbing an emergency torch. He had to get the basalt reactors back online before the air ran out. He was alone, floating in a dead ship at the edge of the void. The emergency torch cast long, dancing shadows as David worked, his hands a blur of motion over the exposed conduits of the basalt reactor. He tore a control panel from a non-essential system, rerouting its power flow with a series of crude but precise welds. It was a desperate gamble, a surge of raw energy that could either restart the heart of the Vigilance or tear it apart. With a final connection, he threw a heavy switch. The ship groaned, and a single pure white light flickered to life on the main console. He sprinted back to the bridge, the metallic clang of his boots echoing in the half-powered corridors. The main view screen was still dark, but a single tactical display glowed with life. It showed the enemy fleet, a swarm of black, spiky signatures, moving with terrifying speed. Their trajectory was unmistakable. They were not just conquerors, they were exterminators, and their target was home. Arcadia drive to maximum. Ignore all safety protocols, David commanded the ship's computer. The Vigilance shuddered, protesting the strain, but obeyed. Space warped around them as he opened a priority channel. President Thorne's face, etched with worry, appeared on a small communications screen. "They're coming, Thorne," David said, his voice tight. "Their weapons bypass conventional shields. You have to tell the fleet to scatter, use evasive maneuvers, don't hold a fixed line." In the silent vacuum above Earth, the Allied fleets held their position. Hundreds of ships from every nation formed a defiant silver line against the blackness. They were the greatest military force ever assembled in human history, a shield forged to protect the world below. But they were a shield about to be struck by a sword that could pass through steel as if it were air. Reality tore open. The enemy fleet didn't arrive, it manifested. One moment there was empty space. The next, a horde of crystalline nightmares hung before the Allied fleet. The order was given, and 1,000 plasma cannons and railguns unleashed a storm of incandescent fury, a wave of destruction that crossed the void in an instant. The enemy did not try to evade. They simply endured. As the Allied barrage subsided, they returned fire. Not with lasers or missiles, but with those same silent black beams of energy. The beams sliced through the dreadnought's shields and hulls effortlessly. Silent, brilliant explosions began to blossom across the human fleet, beautiful and terrible flowers of death. Then, from the direction of the outer system, a new star was born. A cobalt-blue behemoth, larger than any ship in the Allied fleet, dropped out of Kinetostream, its engines blazing. The Vigilance had returned. It didn't join the defensive line. It plunged directly into the heart of the enemy formation like a spear. "Target their command ship," David ordered. "Fire gravitational lance." A shimmering distortion, barely visible to the naked eye, shot from the Vigilance. It wasn't a beam of light, but a focused wave of space-time itself. It struck the largest of the spiky vessels, and the crystalline hull didn't explode. It simply collapsed in on itself, crushed into a singularity of black dust. For the first time, the enemy attack faltered. The swarm of black ships ceased their advance, their movements becoming chaotic and uncertain. Seizing the moment, David opened a broadcast across all frequencies. "This is Captain David of the Earthship Vigilance," his voice boomed across the void. "You have witnessed a fraction of our power. Leave this system now, or you will be utterly destroyed." There was no reply, only a slow, grudging retreat. One by one, the spiky ships turned and tore open rifts in space, vanishing back into the darkness from which they came. The battle, which had seemed so hopeless moments before, was over. A collective sigh of relief passed through the battered Allied fleet. On 100 bridges, cheers erupted. The cost had been high, but Earth was safe. A flood of communications poured towards the Vigilance, messages of awe, relief, and profound gratitude. On the bridge of the Vigilance, there was no celebration. David stared at the post-battle analysis flooding his screen. The gravitational lance was devastating, but the power drain had been catastrophic, leaving them vulnerable for critical seconds. He knew this wasn't a victory. It was a reprieve. This was only the scout fleet. The real invasion was yet to come. "Take us to Station Epsilon," he said quietly. The Vigilance turned its back on Earth and the cheering fleet, accelerating towards a sector of space that was officially empty. Slowly, a colossal ring-shaped space station shimmered into view. A secret city in the sky, a base of operations known to only a handful of people in the universe. The dreadnought slid into a docking bay large enough to hold a small fleet. This was the Dominion, not a ship, but a sanctuary and a fortress. It was here, in secret, that he had forged the T6 technology, built the Vigilance, and prepared for a war he prayed would never come. From a high observation deck, David looked down at the blue and white marble of Earth. He had saved it, for now. But the silence from the void was not peace, it was a gathering storm. He could no longer keep his secrets. Humanity had to be ready for the war to come, and he was the only one who could prepare them.